Bonjour.
Bonjour.
Bonsoir. Comment ça va?
Ça va bien, merci.
Dear friends, I'm with the king of spirits. This is a very exciting time post-Christmas. You're going to be on the fireplace and you're going to enjoy fabulous spirits. I know you will. And we are inviting for you the most awarded spirit maker in California. He won the Spirits Award with his beautiful wife, Ashby. This is Timo Marshall. And he owns a company with his beautiful wife named Spirit Works Distillery. Very exciting because they had an amazing life together as sailors around the world. And then they decided to settle for the distillation of great spirits. Amazing concepts. We're going to hear all about Timo, but to welcome him, it's the Bubbles of Joy, JCB21.
Whoa.
Wow, that was a good one.
That one popped.
Hey, did you see that?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I didn't. It went.
Well, when you come...
But I heard it, you know.
Cheers, Timo, welcome.
Cheers, thank you. Cheers.
So, Timo Santé, first of all, I know you're an expert of fine wine as well as spirits.
You do me too much honor. My knowledge of wine pales in comparison to the spirits world, but that's what I know.
Hey, Timo is English, dear friends. So this is like a phenomenal moment. This is like, Benny Hill with us today. This is like Fawlty Towers.
I hope not. Fawlty Towers, maybe.
And maybe
Yeah.
the very famous, what's your favorite, The Life of Brian?
Hilarious.
Monty Python?
Yeah.
Isn't it great?
Yeah, one of my favorites. That whole series, excellent.
So why do the English versus the French that we are have such a greater sense of humor?
I think everyone has a great sense of humor. They're just different.
Well, but the English are hilarious.
Yeah, we're very sarcastic, I think, in England, and also very self-deprecating. So we always have a go at ourselves, right? And so,
But I was raised with Benny Hill, Fawlty Towers, Monty Python. I mean, all those on French national TV were the big hits, not the French humor show, the English.
yeah, I have no idea why that happened. But I was born in Peru, and I was brought up in South America, and same. All the comedy shows that we watched out there were the same. All the
English.
British. Yeah.
English. Peter Sellers.
That's right. That's right. Those are some great
John
movies.
Cleese.
Wow, you're going way back now.
Oh, I'm
Peter
going way
Sellers.
back. You know, I'm going
What was
way.
that film, Peter Sellers, The Party? One of the most hilarious films back in the day. It's probably not very PC these days.
No, but a
hilarious
lot
back in the day.
of very cool English producers, English movie directors. I mean, so much fun in England.
That's right.
And why is the music so good in England as well?
I don't understand. I think it must be a language thing, right? Because people hear it and understand it better around the world. But definitely, as I travel and have traveled in my life, I've heard way more English bands around the world than other countries.
Yeah.
It's interesting living in America. Ashby and I have been out here now for 16 years, and so it's interesting for me seeing what British bands are not heard of out here. It's very few. Very few. Yeah.
And the movement of English music has created such a trend of fashion around the world and has such an impact still today in a big, big way.
I think so, yeah. I mean, I don't travel as much as I used to, so I don't know really what's happening abroad these days in that way. But
That's exciting to share with our friends because we're going to talk spirits and grain to glass, dear friends. But give us your background of how you started because we are between Christmas and New Year's. This is one of the coolest, most inspirational stories that I know. And tell us about it. From the moment you met Ashby, you fell in love. You went around the world and then came here.
We were working on ships, actually, like icebreakers and just larger vessels doing environmental research all around the world.
Yeah.
And I was a deckhand working on the deck, and so was Ashby. And so that's how we met. And we decided, I mean, she's from here, from the States, and I'm English. And so at some point we had to pick a country to end up in. I'd been sailing for so long. I had no plans to stop sailing. That was going to be, I imagined that's what I was going to be doing moving forward. Ashby was going to carry on pursuing that for a little while, but maybe change careers at that point. And so she said, you know what? Let's do this in the States. You'll love San Francisco. You'll love the Bay Area. Let's go there. There's a good airport if you need to go join some ships around the world. So we ended up in San Francisco. And she was right. I loved it. Really
fell in love immediately.
Such a beautiful city, good people, and
good surfing.
I mean, you call me a surfer, but really I'm like a beginner. I like sitting on a board out in the waves. And so,
well, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, I love it.
As long as you don't have the sharks caressing your feet.
There's where I surf now out here on the Sonoma coast. I think there's a lot of talk of sharks out there, but it's very few and far between. That's it's not right. Really. It doesn't really.
I've never seen.
It doesn't bother me.
No.
Yeah.
But then, so you fall in love, you travel around the world on a ship, and then, because, dear friends, this is a great entrepreneurial story. You have a passion for spirits, and you start a distillery. I mean, how does that happen?
I ask myself that question every day. We ended up in San Francisco. We were still working for environmental nonprofits.
Yep. Which one?
So we worked for various different nonprofits in the city. So everything from Greenpeace to Rainforest Action Network to just whatever environmental work, research type work we could help with.
Yeah.
And so we were doing that for a little while in the city, and then at some point we knew we were going to move out of the city and a little further, get a bit more land around us. And Sonoma County, particularly West County for us, lent itself really well to that dream. And so we thought we'd get land, make the land work for us, do something interesting with the land, and then that was the plan. That was plan A.
Pretty cool plan.
So we, way back in the day, my family has been making a traditional British liqueur just at home for a long time. We'll get into that in a bit. Sloe gin.
Ooh.
And actually, it's pretty important thing in my life. Sloe gin is made traditionally in people's homes in the UK. Yeah. It's not really sold commercially. It's hard to make commercially successfully. We'll touch on that as well. But as an example, when I asked Ashby to marry me, and when I went to get the blessing from her parents, and they gave us their blessing for the marriage, I gave them a bottle of sloe gin that I had made. It was the biggest gesture I could think of doing because it was something very, very personal to me.
You wanted them to get drunk so they would say yes to?
They had already said yes. That was
smart.
Otherwise, I would have kept the bottle.
Why sharing where there's no caring?
Yeah, So that gives an example of how important that played a part in our lives. And then I've always been pretty gin obsessed, and I think gin is an amazing spirit by itself. And so it's just a really interesting product, and you can. It's so easy to really express the skill set and the direction that the distiller wants to go in.
So shall we try it as we're talking about it?
Sure.
Because you're making me tempted here.
Yeah. So this we only I'm going to say we only make one gin. That's not entirely true, but really we have this is our main gin that's out in market, and I poured this one for you.
Dear friends, I know you're jealous, but where could people throughout the United States buy this gin? I assume directly through your tasting lounge.
Yeah, they can go online and get it through us. We point people in a couple of different directions if it's out of California. Yeah. But really, we're still fairly small, and so there's only a few states that we are in right now. But we're expanding every year. For California, sure. Absolutely, and then I would visit our website too. It's just spiritworksdistillery.com.
And dear friends, I'm a huge fan of gin, as many of you know. We will obviously tempt as well our friend Timo with our own gin to compare and contrast, but this is really amazing.
Thank you.
And the English, as I love to say, are kind of the king and queens of gin.
I mean, that's where the history is.
That's where it started.
A big part of the history. Yeah, I think the Dutch will claim that they started it as well. You know,
they claim a lot of things.
Of course.
We love you, Dutch, but you know.
But the British certainly play a big part in the history of gin, and this is actually
Wow.
This style of gin is it's not quite London dry, so it's not heavy juniper, and it's not it's not the subtle New World style of gin, the American style of gin. It's somewhere in between,
Which I love.
Ashby being from here and me being from England, we like to joke that this is a mid-Atlantic style. So, somewhere we kind of compromise.
American and English,
Yeah,
you always try to make it work.
We met in the middle somewhere.
But I'm so glad, by the way, in the 1700s, as much as we love the English, we show them a lesson. Ha ha ha!
What happened in the 1700s? I mean, we've
Well,
been teaching each other lessons throughout the
We
centuries.
kick you out of the United States so we could create the United States. Remember, and can you believe we sold New Orleans and obviously Nouvelle-Orléans, Louisiana, all the way up
Yeah.
in order for Napoleon to finance the war against you.
Yeah, back in the day.
Back in the day, in 1803.
Yeah.
Dear friends, fun stories between the English and the French, but we love each other. And I need to tell you, I studied in England, as you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'm
That's
a
right.
fan of England and a fanatic of London. If
Yeah.
there's a place I could live full time, it would be London.
Yeah, London is an amazing. I only got to live there for a year at one point, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thoroughly.
It was just before my time when I started sailing, and then once I started sailing, I never went back.
Well,
So-
for sure, the sail took you.
Yeah, once you're at sea, it's.
So tell us your dedication. I mean, you were awarded Spirits Distillery of the Year in 2020. I mean, for
Yeah,
the United
last year.
States. It's a big deal, dear friends. You start 10 years later, bang, you hit the jackpot here. This is a big deal as an award. What does
Yeah.
that mean?
I think, I mean, the award itself, it's called the Bubble Cap Award. It's awarded by the ADI, which is one of the craft distillery, like industry, I don't know how to say it, like representative, like the group that brings us all together kind of thing. It, in a similar way as Discus does for the larger spirit companies, etc. And every year they award what they call the Bubble Cap, which is Distillery of the Year award, to the distillery that remains true to the idea of craft distilleries. So that doesn't just mean the type of product that you make. It's also like how you present it, how you talk about it, how
Yes.
transparent you are. And then also they look at your process, and they look at how you treat your employees, and how
The environment.
yeah, and how your process actually works in terms of who are you supporting with your process? Is it local? Is it sustainable? Is it environmentally appropriate what you're
That's
doing,
right.
and helpful in those ways? And so all of those things, and then they also look at how you contribute to the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
And so Ashby and I have always been we've actually been quite involved in the politics of, certainly in California, of craft distilling. We were quite involved with the California Distillers Guild back in the day. I was president of the California Distillers
Wow.
Guild for a short while there. And we got quite involved in trying to get some of the laws to be more favorable and less restrictive to craft distillers.
As they should be.
All those things together, then I guess they picked us out. And
Well, and because you make phenomenal kick-ass
you.
quality spirits too.
yeah, it's
Let's not forget, the liquid is quite amazing. I mean, so this is gorgeous spice here that you have, and from citrus as
so every
dry yet very fresh.
Yeah, so that's the idea of bringing this type of gin, like the floral aspect of this gin. We went for hibiscus, which is very like West Coast fresh and that side of it. So there's there's cardamom in here, and angelica, orris root, of course, for the earth tones. For the citrus, we actually hand zest orange and lemon for that. So
orange too.
yeah. So I think every gin has a little aspect of all those things, right? So floral spices and things, and at the heart of it, of course, is the juniper, and our juniper comes from Eastern Europe, and so it's
gorgeous
pretty
legs,
special. Yeah.
Beautiful density and richness. So now, if we compare it to the slow gin, which would be a splendid idea.
The slow gin, I'm going to taste it on you at the end just because it's sweet. And so before we get to it, I know I've put them together, but before we get to it, I think we'll jump into the whiskeys. The only reason for that is because I think of this sometimes as a little dessert.
Okay, great.
So
you have a very unique philosophy as far as the land, the field, the harvesting of the actual raw material. You say it obviously as a tagline, grain to glass. Explain us that and how involved you are in the supply of all that.
So grain to glass, it kind of means what we're doing with grain to glass is that we are talking about the fact that we mill, mash, and ferment our own grain. So what does that mean? That means we receive grain. In our case, it's wheat. We buy it out of the Sacramento Valley. That's where it's grown.
Wow.
And we mill that into a fine flour, and we cook it, add water. We cook it with steam, and we essentially mash it so that we can then pitch yeast and create alcohol. That's think of it as a beer, but without the hops, kind of thing. Pretty like a simple process. And then once that's fermented over a few days, we take that out and put it in our still, and we strip out the alcohol. That alcohol is then what we use as part of the distillation.
I see.
We're very
very methodical, very quality oriented. I love that.
It gives us a chance to get really involved in the raw material as best we can. And that's always been really important to us. And that's how we learned how to distill in the first place. And so that feels important.
And I'm excited you say this because in the world of wine, we often say, the wine is made in the vineyards. So the vineyards and the soil, the terroir, as we call it in the jargon of wine, is so essential. And I'm so glad to hear that you're taking that additional steps of the field, how it's cultivated, even organic for some instances, right?
Yeah, as best we can, we'll go for organic material, organic raw material as best we can. It's not always possible to do that, but actually at the moment we've managed to get to a place where pretty much all of our raw material is organic. And we do that primarily for the environmental impact that's going to have down the line. That's the main motivator for it. As best we can, we try and hit those. Some people think of them as the buzzwords. So local, sustainable, organic, family owned.
But you're doing it.
We try and hit all of those.
And woman led.
But we try and do that with what we purchase, right? That's our supplies. Yeah. For ourselves, we have been called out a few times as having a strong female presence in production. We've always had a female head distiller. That's just by chance.
Your beautiful wife.
She is head distiller at the moment.
Isn't it exciting, dear friends? This is a husband and wife team. That's what we love. I mean, besides being great friends, it's so exciting to see them so successful and embracing as well Ashby at the still, because she's the one with you that are distilling.
Yeah, she and I both learned to distill together, and then when we first built the distillery, we built the distillery together, she claimed that she didn't know how to do certain spreadsheets, so I had to focus on that while she started distilling. And I ended up spending way more time dealing with stuff on the computer than actually at the still.
Well, it's not easy to start your own business. Huh?
It is not, no, but a lot of people question being partners with someone, like working with your spouse or partner at work every day. Like we go to work together every day and we go home together every day. And so it's like a lot of people question that.
I was thinking maybe you go to work together, but you don't go home at the same time.
I mean, it's really interesting question, and you have to be the communication has to be 100%. Like you have to communicate so well.
No pun intended, but I think you know how to distill the information between one another.
Thank you. You've jumped straight onto wheat whiskey.
Well, I'll jump wherever you want, but I want to go for it, for God's sake.
So
I'm looking at those beautiful colored amber spirits that are beautiful from Sonoma County, dear friends. So what Ashby and Timo are doing as Spirit Works is really working on the regional aspect of it, which is really what we do as wineries. This is why I thought it would be so exciting for you to meet them, purchase their products, and dive into their heads and their world and their skills, because this is really the terroir we know. This is next to Deloach.
Yeah, this is this particular wheat also is out of the southern end of the Sacramento Valley, so Yolo County, that sort of area, and this is a 100% wheat whiskey. Whiskey, of course, is pretty much a spirit made from grain. That's the definition of whiskey. I mean, it's not precisely, but it's one definition of whiskey. And so this particular grain, wheat, is really, if you think of the bread that this would make, like it's like comfort food. Wheat is, if someone's going to make you a sandwich, they're like, I'm going to make you a sandwich. They don't tell you what bread, because you know it's going to be wheat or something, it's like comfort food. So it's very approachable. There's some sweetness in here. It's buttery. It's there's honeycomb, and I love this. This is the first whiskey I distilled legally in the U.S.
When you say legally, let's touch on that.
I mean, I learned to distill in other people's distilleries, and so I had one mentor in particular who taught me. His name is Don Poffenroth, and shout out to Don. He's an amazing distiller, just hands down. And he taught me the secrets of distilling wheat whiskey. And these are the results. This is
I'm
100%
a big fan.
wheat. Yeah.
Dear friends, don't be jealous. Just go online and order ASAP. So by New Year, you'll have it.
That's right.
This is
If you didn't get this for Christmas, I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
You need to have words with your family.
That's it.
It's really approachable. It's really nice. Traditional white oak, American white oak. Quercus alba is the type of woods that they sit in.
White oak brings that beautiful vanilla.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh,
really
very refined. What's the art? Timo, share with the world, without all your secrets, of course, because I know there's a lot, to be such a great distiller. Because when you look at that beautiful still, dear friends, copper, those beautiful columns, and it's beautifully and shiny. It's like a piano of a kitchen, similar to La Cornue, in fact. I have at home a copper kitchen. When you come, you'll see it.
Okay.
Not as shiny as your
stills. And people walk in and they see the still. They straight away they fall into three camps. They either say it looks like something out of Jules Verne, like that kind of thing, or it's Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that kind of weird thing, or it's a musical instrument like a flute or something. It's beautiful. Really, the still is stunning. The question you're asking is, because I could teach you how to distill something in a couple of days. I could teach you how to distill. But to do it well can take a lifetime.
That's right.
And some people just have it. They just have that skill set. And so what we're talking about here is the mix between enough science knowledge, enough like rational knowledge in that way, and on the other side, creativity. So the best people, the people who are the best at the still, in my opinion, are also the type of people who in the kitchen are amazing cooks.
Really?
So yeah, if they, like Ashby, for example, when she's distilling something, she'll smell it or taste it and say, you know what, it needs a little, it needs just a little bit more time or a little bit more, and she does it instinctively. Wow. Whereas for myself, I'm a bit more nerdy, so I'm like, nah, it's been running for 20 minutes. Kind of needs a little bit more.
Well,
time.
you follow more the process.
Yeah, so
men follow direction very well, ladies. Don't you agree?
And so we have a interesting balance there. So when we create these recipes, we do it together. We work together on these processes. I'll put down the recipe, the SOP, the standard operating procedure. I'm very careful about it, and then Ashby can ignore that. So and do it how she wants to do it.
I love it.
She's amazing at
that level of interpretation gives you that, right? I mean,
That's correct. That's correct. So then we end up with this wheat whiskey, which no doubt Ashby distilled this back in the day.
Where do you see the evolution of terroir in the world of spirits? In other words, dear friends, to enlighten you further, the sense of place where you would see whiskey and bourbon made from very specific area like we do with wine. Rutherford, Oakville, St. Helena.
Yeah, I think more and more, it doesn't really exist too much within the world of spirits, but more and more we're talking about it in the same way that I'm telling you even what county this wheat is from. But I think more and more you're finding that our customers who are so sophisticated in what it is that they are tasting and what it is they're enjoying, people want to spend their money appropriately, and they want to know where those things are coming from. So those questions, more and more and more, we're being asked: where is it from? Where do your suppliers get this from?
And do you
so
genuinely? That's real. And do you genuinely see an intrinsic difference in taste from each of those areas? You mentioned Sacramento, you mentioned Sonoma, you've mentioned other areas of California.
So I think, I find a difference every time we get a new supplier of grain. And so I think that obviously I'm going to put that down to place because the geography has a big effect on what's happening. I found it very hard to find the exact same grain from two different places that I can compare and contrast in that way. But I think we definitely, much in the same way as a distillery has a house feel, or a winery has a house feel, even though they're different types of wine or different types of spirits that are produced there. Much in that same way, the grain that you get from different farmers or aggregators in that way from those areas produces the same sort of feel to me.
So before we go to the next, can you pass me a glass? I want you to try I'd love your opinion. Dear friends.
Oh, that sounded good.
Look at this carafe. This is
it's a beautiful bottle, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is truffle infused. So we basically harvest the truffle from Périgord, obviously the southwest of France. And from there, what we do is we infuse it in the tank directly. So it's a vodka based, but grape based. So it's Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, right?
Yeah.
We make wine and then we distill 7 times, and then we drop in a very unique, patented way the beautiful truffle in there.
It's fascinating. I mean, I don't know of another truffle vodka. This is fascinating to me.
Never heard of it, and specifically black truffle. White truffle may have been, and we've tried it, too flavorful and too dominant, which many of us can feel in Italian olive oils, with the Piemonte truffle.
Sure.
I'm a fan of this because that earthiness.
It's so subtle and it's delicious.
You like it?
Delicious, yeah. Yeah. I would sip on
that. Well, I'll make sure we give you a bottle.
There we go.
What about that? So,
yeah, that's delicious.
where do you see the evolution of spirits in the United States? I know it's a big question on its own.
Yeah, and I feel like I sometimes it's hard to see the wood for the trees because we're inside it, and so sometimes that's hard to see. But I do know what a lot of our colleagues and people are preparing for down the line. I think you've hit on it, on the fact of looking at terroir to a certain extent. I think certainly within the whiskey world, that's really important. I think the hyperlocality of This gin is a California style gin made, California style, mid-Atlantic style. But it's definitely got a very fresh feel to it, and it's made in Sonoma County, and people that live here really want to support that. We have a tasting room out in Sebastopol, and we get so many visitors to that space, and the majority of those visitors are local to that space because they want something that's hyper-local in that way. We have a robust spirits club there as well. It's a quarterly club, and we have most of the people that are members of that club again are local to this area because they want something from here. You know? So I think the industry is moving to a certain extent in that direction. So locale is really, really important. There are every year some people will come along and say, this is the year for gin, this is the year for vodka and things. I think there are some areas where however much we like and appreciate those spirits, they can be harder to reintroduce again. So I think there will be a resurgence of brandy, but I think that's a longer...
I'm a big believer of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's grape based.
Correct. And
so obviously I'm biased there.
And it's very French, European style. And so there are some amazing, amazing brandy producers here in California. And so here in Napa, in fact. And so I think it absolutely has its place. The one area that I think has a lot of potential though also is single malts. So an American style.
That's right.
Of single malt whiskeys. And so
is it what we have on the far left?
No, this is a rye whiskey. This is we'll jump in there as well. But single malt is barley generally. Well, not generally. That's the idea is that it's barley. And I mean, people think of single malt, they think of Scotch whiskey, which the malting process uses peat, and so they can be smoky, and they have that kind of very distinct Scotch flavor. The American single malt is pretty clean and a lot more subtle. But I think there's a movement in that direction. You've touched on this label here. This is a straight rye whiskey. So, we were talking about bread earlier. When someone makes you a sandwich, if they're going to use rye bread, they'll turn around and say, this is a rye bread sandwich, just to let you know, because it's much more of a conversation. It's fast, it's a lot more depth, interesting spices. You're always going to get like some pepper flavors in here that's like normal for rye.
I like your little glasses, by the way.
Thank you. They're like, the style is called a Glencairn. They're used for whiskey tasting.
I love the feel.
But it's a mini.
I like it. Well, we don't need necessarily that much as a tasting, too.
But they work well. They can... So there's a lot more pepper, a lot more spice on this. There's that new leather to it, some tobacco in there.
For sure.
But at the same time, it has that sweetness in there. We use some... it's about 70%... rye in here and 30% malted barley. So those malts bring with them some of that sweetness that you're getting, some of that chocolate and some like golden graham crackers, that kind of thing. The honey, there's a slight honey note in there.
Stunning spice structure.
And it just stays. It's really long, long. I think there are a lot of people who are just into rye, and that's their thing, kind of thing. At the tasting room, people can come in and taste through all of these, and I would say 50-50.
Really?
Yeah, between these two. I'm very proud of the wheat whiskey.
For sure.
As I say, whiskey is made from grain, and so I believe that back in the day, out here, California, this area, they would have made whiskey from whatever grew out here. And back then, wheat was everywhere. And so I think that this is a very California or West Coast style of whiskey, wheat whiskey. Yeah. I have no facts to back that up.
Well, if we say it, that's going to be the trend.
But I'm a true believer that this is what you would have been drinking here traditionally back in the day. And so I love the fact that we're making wheat whiskey here. I love it.
And tell us about how great of a ladies' organization you are. Besides your beautiful wife, you have a great team that is really woman-led as well. And I know you haven't designed it necessarily this way. It happened, but explain to everyone how much ladies and are becoming so big into the spirits world.
I think the traditional view has been dissipating in all industries.
Yes.
Over time, and I think it's a great thing. For many reasons. I've been fortunate enough to always work in organizations and in industries where that has never been a question, and so to me I've never really thought about it in that way. I say industries. When we were working at sea, when Ashby and I were working at sea, there was often situations we'd pull into port where Ashby might be holding a rope about to tie up the ship or something, and someone would come and say, "I'll help you with that, miss." And she's like, "No, I got this. I'm the deckhand."
Well, that's nice though to get the help.
Yeah, but they didn't offer me the help. So that's what I mean. There's a difference in how things are approached. Spirit Works has just always offered the job or the role to the person who is best qualified and who seems to fit best into our culture for that particular role. And it just so happens that the majority throughout our history, it was a short history of long history now of 10 years, throughout our history, it's predominantly been women-led.
That's so exciting.
Well, yeah.
But I'm excited to, and do you think, as you so much co-work with Ashby, that it's has a more feminine approach to your spirits or different style than most, because you are both so involved in it?
I mean, I would say it has an Ashby influence, absolutely. And so she is so intuitive in how she produces all these products, and then has to make it repeatable, right? It has to be this gin. We write the batch numbers on it, so this is batch number 48 that we're tasting, and it will taste exactly the same as batch 42. Or when I say exactly the same, when you have a sophisticated palate like yours, you may be able to find a small difference there, but really it's the same feel, same house, that gin.
Wow.
But the influence, I would say, is Ashby's and her team. And her team chops and changes. At the moment, it's 50-50, her team. If I think of the numbers, it is exactly 50-50 right now, men and women.
Here we go, dear friends.
But she's in charge. So,
well, you love so much. Let's use the last glass. You love so much the ocean and the seas of the world that we would love your opinion on this JCB caviar infused. So beluga caviar. So can you imagine?
Yeah, this is a special thing for me.
Yeah, and
I love caviar.
Oh,
so
next time we visit, maybe at New Year's, in a few days, we have a big party together and we have the eggs with it. So this is your friend.
Interesting.
Pinot Chardonnay made, distilled, caviar infused. So we literally put the eggs into the tank. Boom. I mean, there's a unique process on how we do it.
Of course.
Took us 15 years to figure out how. But I'm in love with this one because as oyster shooters, with oysters, with smoked salmon, with caviar, with, even a Bloody Mary if you wanted to have a great one.
Yeah, it's excellent. I think both these vodkas are just fascinating to me. The subtle way in which you're pulling those flavors through. It's fascinating to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's excellent. Another sipper.
So maybe we figure out a pouch under your swimsuit. So when you surf, you could, you could.
And there's someone. I bet someone must have invented a little surfing.
I'm sure.
A surfing hip flask, right?
So
that's hilarious.
As we review and we're going to taste the slow gin, what inspires you to keep creating all those beautiful things?
I mean, I think Ashby and I, we always knew we were going to make a gin because we need that to make slow gin. That's this. We knew that was going to happen. But I also think, we've always been so excited to move in a direction of making really interesting and the best possible whiskeys we can do that, and then also be able to make them accessible to people in this area. That's kind of that was the mission, and I feel like we've achieved that. I know we've achieved that in amazing. I'm very proud of what we've done, but I also think that every now and again we want to do some interesting interesting things. So, for example, now in December we just released our exploratory. We just made an exploratory gin. It was just an experimental gin that we wanted to pull out just for December for our club members, and we're selling it out of the tasting room as a limited edition. So you can't actually buy it out in market, but you can from the tasting room. I may have brought a bottle with me.
Let's try. You see how he's bringing me in. Ooh, love the package.
So it's very much
the blue and the craft paper.
Yeah, it's very much like this is to denote that it's experimental. It's a one-off. It's just literally a single batch.
Did you have some in the car because it's half?
I was only allowed to. These I've just opened now, but this one I'm only allowed to bring this one as a sample. So,
well, I have a glass. Don't worry about it.
I have a couple more.
Oh, look at that.
I brought several glasses just in case.
Thank you. I know we only typically do Baccarat glasses here, the big size.
So, this is this gin, for example, just to give you an idea of the things we can play with. This is all holiday spices, right?
I love
so this is like star anise and cardamom and clove.
I feel the anise.
There's like apple in here and orange, and it's very much this season.
Wow, dear friends, look at this.
For this time.
002, that means that's the second time you do an exploratory gin?
So every now and again we do interesting gins. So that's what I was saying before. We only do one gin really most of the time, but we do one-offs the rest of the time. This is very much holiday spices. That's the
Negroni,
idea behind it.
Your Negroni is ready almost.
Yeah. This was perfect on Christmas Day. Sitting in front of the fire was excellent. Yeah, so this kind of thing we're able to do as a little product out of the tasting room.
So you added here versus the traditional gin. What did you add here?
So in this one, there's just things that you would think of around the holiday season. So we added a bit more of the holiday spices. Think mulled wine, all those sort of spices went in. And then quite a bit of like dried apple, oranges, caramelized oranges, those sort of things.
I'm in love with it. And dear friends, if you love gin, give a call to Timo immediately. So you get tasting room exclusive. I love how you've done it.
Yeah.
On the label here, it's tasting room exclusive, which is very cool.
Yeah, we it's quite hard in the spirits industry to get something put out in the general market because you have to go through a distributor and then finally it makes it into a store and then you can get it out. So every now and again for experiments like this, it's great for us to be able to do this, and it's been a hit. This one, so that's why I'm restricted in how much I can bring.
I love
with me. It's done really great. We do fun experiments like this all the time. We made a Old Tom gin earlier this year, which is an homage to like the old school style of making
which
gin.
Which means?
It has a little sweetener added to it. It's slightly sweeter and it's aged very slightly in barrel. I may have brought a sample with me.
He's such a teaser. I love it. Wow. This is Christmas again. I know it was 2 days ago. I got spoiled with some of Timo's spirits.
I wasn't sure how much time. I've got a couple more glasses.
Hey, you should have dressed in red. This is Christmas,
I was just
Father.
Preparing. So as you can see, the color is different.
Yeah.
Because it spent a bit of time in barrel. And so this is a good introduction as we're moving.
I'm so glad we're going to party all night, dear friends, because this is getting to my head slowly but surely.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere after this.
This is really spectacular. Wow.
Yeah, this one is pretty special. So this one, the whole production team, we sat around as a team, the new people that are coming in and just learning. Ooh. And we discussed how we were going to do this recipe together as a team. And then we progressed with it. We decided when we were going to make the cuts together. We all voted and stood at the still. And it was a really bonding experience for the production team. It was a really excellent process. So you have to sweeten. Let's go way back. Back in the day, during the gin taxes, the gin acts that happened in the UK in 1600s, 1600s, a lot of gin production went underground. And so they were making terrible, terrible gin. Mm-hmm. And the way to be able to sell it was to add sweetener to it to
see.
cover up the terrible flavors, and so they would add sugar, honey, various things like that. And Old Tom Gin was born, and so it's never gone away as a style. That's the original. There's a longer the story gets longer and longer, and more convoluted. Depends how much of it you've been drinking. And so this is our normal gin, but in addition to it, we've added some sweeter botanicals.
I love this one.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is maybe my favorite of all. I mean, I love them all.
It has licorice, orris, like those are botanical sweeteners. And then when we age it in a barrel, we added honey.
So how long in a barrel?
Not very long, like 6 months, I want to say.
Oh, 6 months.
This one was 8 months in a barrel, but Old Tom doesn't have to be. It can be any age.
And what's the meaning of Old Tom?
So
what?
So back in the day, during that time, during the 1600s, when it went underground, the sale of gin was prohibited in many places. But there was this one guy, and I can't remember his name. I want to say it was Captain Bradshaw or something like that. Something like that was his name. And he started selling Old Tom. He started selling gin out of his house, and his house had a big black cat, an Old Tom, the tomcat, painted on the outside of his house. And so you'd go and you'd put a penny in the slot in the window, and he would pour a shot of gin down a lead pipe to the outside, and you either caught it or drank it or did whatever you wanted to do.
So cool.
And he made a fortune. I think there's like stories of him making £20 a week or something, which back then was fortune. And so
wow.
You're
giving me ideas.
People
now.
started copying.
We're going to start buying pipes.
People started copying this process, and they would paint a black cat, an Old Tom, on the outside of the buildings. So that's how people knew where to get the gin from.
That's the
story of Old Tom.
Exciting. Wow, thank you for sharing.
Right.
So now you've created all those phenomenal gins. I mean, who does so many great gins like you?
I mean, I think this is the beauty of being a craft distillery. Like, these are just one-offs. Short period of time, we spend 95% of our time making this type of gin, like our normal gin. And then every now and again, we get to experiment and do one-offs.
But your experiments are stunning.
I mean,
that's what excites me into the world we're in of beverages.
Not all our experiments make it into bottle.
But I'm glad you selected. I mean, you have to be. Everything we've tried is outstanding.
Thank you.
I mean, really exceptional, dear friends. So, what's your dream?
What's my dream?
Besides going with Ashby on a desert island for 3 months.
I mean, that's every year I try and find somewhere interesting to go. What's my dream? Ashby and I, we've been through some interesting times over the past couple of years. You know, these times these past 2 years, we have all been questioning a lot of what it is that we have done and what it is that we want to do with our lives, and what is the balance of our lives, and how do we want to move forward. Our dream is to make and continue to make great spirits for people, and also hopefully to answer questions. And we want to be a resource for people who want to find out more about what it is they're drinking and and what that looks like. And we would like to we want to share our experience, our knowledge, and our skill set in that way. And at the same time, continue to produce really great spirits that are accessible to people. Honestly, that's what I want to do. I know that sounds funny, and
why? I think it's a fabulous dream.
Yeah, it's really.
You're a creator. You have a true, dear friend. There's a true osmosis. Again, I'm going into the distillation world here between Timo and Ashby and the liquid itself. And what they've done is a miracle of passion and creativity and phenomenal quality. What an exploration.
Thank you.
I'm so excited and bullish because we're the same.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You guys are bold in the moves that you make. And,
we love it.
Yeah, and the results are obvious and really palpable. And so
thank you.
Yeah, I'm honored just to sit here and chat to you about it.
Okay. Well, dear friends, we're going to try now.
That's the last one.
The one Timo made in his bathtub.
This is what started it.
What convinced his father-in-law now to say yes.
Yeah, that's right. Sloes are it's a wild plum. It grows on the blackthorn bush, and in Europe, it's planted around fields as a hedgerow, and so we make a liqueur out of it. And the base liquid, the base spirit that goes into it is gin, which is why it's called a sloe gin. So
But I love that. Cheers, that
Cheers.
plum. Makes me think often of what we do with prunes and plums in Burgundy as we distill it and blend it sometimes with wine.
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
Mar, M-A-R-C, Mar, which is
Okay.
a distillation of grapes,
This is this is slightly different to how it would be in the UK. In the UK, it would be slightly sweeter, but out here in the States, we wanted the fruit to really shine forward. If people want it sweeter, they can add their own sweetness
That's
to
right.
it. In England, it's drunk like this, neat, after dinner, as a digestif.
I would certainly.
But here in the US, it's used a lot more as a component in cocktails, in craft cocktails. And so we wanted to make something that was fruit, and you get that delicious sour plum.
Wow. I love that
flavor.
sourness myself. I'm big into sours, so absolutely delicious.
Yeah, I can sip on this all day. I mean, this was Christmas Day for me. End of Christmas Day.
About a few days ago, and he is looking fresh and ready to go for another night. So
There's another year coming. We gotta be fresh
we're
for it.
ready. So
Yeah.
Timo, now comes the time where you look at the camera deeply and you address the world. It's about to be New Year's. We are 3 days away. It's going to be a new year. I hope we do a lot of things together.
Yeah, I think we're looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, it's so exciting. And dear friends, I know we spent a whole hour together with Timo, understanding the world of spirits, of Sonoma, of grain to glass, of different processes from gin to... He does a great vodka as well. And a lot of other products. We had to narrow it down to just 6 today.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I know I said I would show up with 2 or 3, but I couldn't help myself.
No, and it's that exploration is so inviting, so inspirational. I mean, you gave me 20 ideas of what I should do with wine and champagne. And they all go together, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Yeah.
Timo, as you address, if you don't mind, I'm going to surprise you with something. And I want to surprise you with our cognacs, dear friends. So,
Whoa.
this is our cognac, which is a Grand Champagne, as we call it in the world of cognac. So I know you have probably an extra glass.
I do have a couple of extra glasses.
I know. He came with a whole case. Now I look at this. So
I mean, if you look at this table now, it looks like we've really been
we're being naughty.
we've been exploring.
But the night is starting.
That's it.
It's December 27. What else do we want to do together, Timo? That dream and think about, the world ahead of us.
Yeah, this is a special treat.
Yeah. So 35 vintages blended from 1969. My date of birth. Timo is much younger than I am, unfortunately.
71.
Yeah, well, 2 years. I mean, 2 years is a lot of years. 24 months. 700 plus days.
Cheers. Yeah, this is a special treat right here. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. Yeah. This
Well, they all work so well together. From the bubbles all the way to your incredible collection, to then a little cognac. And of course, our vodkas, caviar, truffle. I mean, what a table, dear friends. Isn't it a perfect picture? I mean, this is kind of the dream of what everybody should do between Christmas and New Year's. And dear friends, we will keep going. But Timo, what's your final word to our friends as they approach the New Year? Because Timo has shown us everything is possible. Come out of England, work on ships, his passion, meets his wife, lands in America as a great true English explorer, explores Sonoma County, start a distillery. I mean, for God's sake, brilliant. has beautiful stills. You'll see the picture as a link in the chat. Discover his beautiful techniques, his amazing team, his great video with his wife, and here as a very successful neighbor making spirits. I mean, what a story.
Thank you. Yeah, it's,
we all want to sail the same boat you have. We want to be on the boat.
I mean, everyone's welcome aboard. I think that's what I want to say is come and visit, come and join us, and come and taste this. Come and taste this with us. Ashby and I are so proud of what we have put together here, and we want to share it. So, so please, and thank you. This has been wonderful.
Well, dear friends, I'm gonna do a final toast with a cognac to Timo to say welcome to France too. Welcome to Napa Sonoma. I know it's not easy to be English always.
I try not to think about it.
Brexit, Sterlings, ay. But England, we love you. And Timo, thank you for your great sense of humor, your fabulous personality. And you know, dear friends, I will close by telling you I met Timo in an amazing distillery meeting and seminars organized by Tasting Panel. 7 years ago, we stayed in touch. I've always admired what they do as a family. And I'm so honored to see so many great talents coming out of your world.
Thank you.
To do what you do to keep inspiring us as well in the wine world and champagne world, which is who we are, and cognac world. So to your continued success.
Thank you. Likewise.
Dear
Cheers.
friends, we'll be back for Happy New Year, but keep drinking and go on Spirit Works website.
Cheers. Cheers.